Broad Street Review Podcast, Philly's online hub for arts, culture, and commentary, where art and ideas meet. I am your host, Darnell Radford. On today's podcast, we caught up with Gabriela Sanchez and Erlina Ortiz of Power Street Theater Company. We discuss Teatro al Fresco, Minority Land, and how Power Street continues to engage the community. Here is my interview with Power Street Theater Company. And I'm here with Power Street Theater Company. Power Street, welcome back. Hey. Here with Erlina Ortiz and Gabriela Sanchez. Thank you for coming back and catching up with us. So, what have you been up to? What has been going on at Power Street?
What a loaded question.
I feel like it's been a minute. It has been a minute since we chatted.
When was the last time we chatted?
I feel like
before Las Mujeres.
Yeah.
Wow. So like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel that long.
Oh, to be a shame.
Yeah.
I guess it was just as long as it was. Let's see. Well, I guess since January we've had the biggest, one of our new acquisitions into our programming have been our Land and Body Tierra y Cuerpo courses, which has been a brainchild of mine, which then got some actual possibility put behind it when Gabby took the idea and was like, yes, let's apply for a grant for this. But I, a couple of years ago, taught a bilingual adult playwriting course at the Delaware Latin American Community Center with Del Shakes. So David Stradley over there, I guess heard about me somehow and had a grant for this thing and put this class together. And I was like, okay, let me do this. And it was such a beautiful experience to teach adults and to be like, oh, people need this in adulthood, not just children.
Yeah.
And that it was bilingual and that it was accessible in that way. So I immediately went to Gabby and was like, I really would love if there's a way we can start putting into the universe, into the grant world also, in the realistic way, to bring these classes to North Philly. And then again, Gabby went to work doing one of her many, many talents and got us an awesome little grant to make it happen.
And I think when Irina approached me about this amazing experience she had, I think there was a lot of opportunity that, I saw with the possibility of self-care for adults. So I think that there was something that I was like, I want to participate in your class. It was kind of almost I also felt like this program could serve me. And so there was something really fruitful about that I was so engaged in the idea of having an adult program that I knew that I wasn't fearful of recruitment. I wasn't fearful of people not participating because I had never seen anything like it in our community. So often we see, the funding world investing in the impact in young people because the impact is longer in a lot of ways, right? But I've also been very interested in how do we take care of, adults 18 plus, right? That are feeding into the young generation, right? And so
if they didn't get access to that in themselves in their youth, or they had one class in 11th grade and that's all their access that they've had to some type of theater experience, then, in adulthood, so many people have such a desire to just express themselves.
Yeah.
And to have a chance to tell their story and to
use their imagination.
And to be in communion with other people that aren't just their people from their day job, that they're, see it, or their family members. There are different people from different backgrounds and who are also sharing their story. And I think we create a space where people really do feel open and there's a sense of a connection that's very strong amongst the participants in the class. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I found it to be I was like, okay, like when you finish a show and you close the show and you're like, you turn off the lights and you're like, we did it, that was a great show.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling at the end of each class, where you're like, especially because it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Like, I know Gabby doesn't get as nervous as I do, but I always get nervous before class. Like, I get nervous the same way I would before performing in a show. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Class is ready. Okay, people are coming. Let's do this. Like, get into the zone and, like, make sure that I'm, like, ready for whatever might happen and that I know what my lesson plan is. But afterwards, you're like, yes.
It helps to just say you're nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like once you say it, I'm nervous. Is anyone nervous? Okay, we're all nervous. That's fine. Now we can get started. It feels like it levels the playing field. Like, maybe if you don't even say it out loud, but you just sort of voice it, I'm nervous. Now we can kind of move forward.
Yeah, one day I expressed, I've never done, and I think you were there that class. I was like, these are all new lessons that I've pieced together from other things I've learned. I've never tried them on a group before. Thank you for being my guinea pigs. Let's try this. And like some of it along the way, you're like, look, this isn't working. You got to change it. But that's what you got to be willing to do if you're trying something new.
Yeah.
But you were also, I think the key is that we were transparent, because I think I use that same model, right? And I think our community norms, right, of just also transparency of like speaking how we feel, being able to show up as our full selves, and being able to adjust and adapt so that we can meet each other where we are, right? And I think that is, I think for me, that's something that I find the strength in my teaching artist ability and skill, and also it creates that safe haven in the like classroom or in the ministry where we usually are doing our work, that we can find that camaraderie together and support and be able to like be like, you know what, today I want to be present, but I can't fully participate. Like, there's been times that people have had to do that, and I'm like, wow, people felt comfortable enough to share where they are. That's a success.
Yes.
So like moments, I think for me, I think the class, I miss the classes so much. I mean, there's still like group texts, and there's moments that I'm just like, this may have been one of the most impactful programs I've ever done in my life. Just because the relationships that were built, and it was just so different. Even though it was similar to like doing a show, there was just something really beautiful, because most folks who were in shared space together were, one, so different, and also came from different worlds and backgrounds, and had really not many people had that much experience with writing or performance. So we're all jumping into this world together, and offering so much like support and also sometimes resistance, right? Like, but like the growth that I saw in the span of 10 classes, ultimately. We were only supposed to do 8, but I did a couple of more classes in my group. I go, oh, there can be change in the world, because I experienced it in a way. I saw it and I experienced it, and I also grew. So thank you so much. Like as a facilitator, instructor, as a teacher, like oftentimes there's this idea of like, I'm going to just teach you, and I love that like a part of the community norms is teach and be taught. And that's a practice that was also created through Balante, which is a production that I was able to direct with First Person Arts through Power Street within the last year, which was also amazing. But I remember I can't remember which person brought that to our community norms, but it may have been Zandra, but that just stuck with me forever. I was like, oh, this is actually, I've been doing this practice, but I didn't have the right words for it. And I was like, it's that simple. Especially when you're having an intergenerational experience, because I was working with a lot of people that were much older than me. So how do I navigate that? Because ageism is real. And that's something that makes me sometimes nervous, right? To be in space. And it's just all of that goes out the window once you have these community norms and they're existing forever and they can be adapted. We can cross them out. There's just liberty, but there's some guidelines to what it means to share space together and to co-create. And I think that that's important in our practice and in our model. And I think that we've been articulating that much more in the last year in order to be able to do this work that is necessary.
I think, and that also came out of the Las Mujeres process, because we very much went into it like this is a very feminist group right now. Like, we are all women putting on a show with women. You know, like, it was a very strong desire to like create a different space and do something new. And like, we've already been practicing these different models of like doing things in a different way that is healthier, non-toxic, but without realizing it really into other people came into the space and said, wow, I've never had an experience like this before. And then us being like, what is it that we are doing differently? Let's start to actually think about this and like, who are the people who are also doing this work? And we've been doing a lot of reading and just like educate. Like, Gabby got me a book, I got her a book. Like, we've been trying to just like help each other even understand more, okay, what are we doing? How can we do it better? How can we continue to model something different?
Would you say that this is the beginning or the continuation of an educational program for Power Street?
This is our dream. Like, we definitely want to do this moving forward, and hopefully we'll continue to get funding.
Yes.
So I think, you know, we know the impact. We know that our community desires this program, and also that we want to continue to do it. I think that's the exciting part for both of us, is that we both are like, when's the next time we're gonna teach again? And you know, I'm a teaching artist for the Arden, for Theater Horizon, for Philadelphia Young Playwrights. So since I've resigned my full-time job, I have now been freelancing, and so
is it filling the gap?
So
It's got its pluses and minuses.
But I will say that it's been real. There's been this new agency of I'm teaching for all of these other companies, and they're all so different and unique in their own way. They're just so different. But what it meant for me to finally teach for like my company, you know, and like be able to like have agency on like more than even the lesson plan, right? But like the outreach, just all of the things. It was really cool to be like, oh, this is what this is like. So it was a new journey for me as a producer and also teaching artist in my growth in my career and all the things that I do. But that was a really cool thing to like kind of learn, you know. And I'm like, oh, like I'm just gonna keep growing even as a teaching artist and as an artist, and that's really exciting to me.
Well, I guess working with those other companies helps you see what works, and if you can borrow from these elements and build on the ideas that you already had for your own company. You talked about funding. So talk about the funding for this.
The funding components for in relation.
Bartol.
So Bartol was one of the funders for Land and Body, Tierra y Cuerpo, as well as the Resist Foundation. And you know, I felt very proud when we received Bartol because it's a prestigious grant, you know. And I remember it was a couple of months ago that all the grantees, there was a breakfast that Beth was holding from the Bartol Foundation, and I'm sitting at a table with like Carmen Febo, who runs Taller Puertorriqueño. And now that the Bartol has decided to, you can't make over $1 million in order to get this grant.
That's fine.
Which is fine, right? But that also now means that Taller Puertorriqueño can no longer receive funding. So it was the last, right? So it was the last kind of gathering that Taller could participate in within this grant, and they've been receiving funding from Bartol for years, right? And so this is an organization that I went to camp at as a kid. I worked for many years, and ultimately where Power Street founded our company, right? And I'm sitting, you know, I'm a new grantee sitting at a table with like an elder, ultimately. And also the person, Iris, who I'm forgetting the name of her organization, but she is a Bombay Plena artist who has preserved the dance in our community. And I have pictures with her, and she taught me bomba, and I remember teaching bomba at Tayed, right? And she taught Tony Mendez, who now has also been kind of carrying on the legacy of bomba in our community. And so it's one of those things that I'm sitting at a table with two elders, and it was just so surreal because it was just like a moment of like dreams really do happen. Even though like I'm like, we could use a lot more money, but Bartels helped us get to that point to be able to see our dream through and know the possibilities. And I hope that we continue to get money from the Bartel. But just even that experience of being at that table on top of like the programming and everything, being able to shake hands with other people who are doing work in the city that's really important for our communities and for also artists, and for, the list goes on and on. Like,
and
felt
I'm
really
so
powerful.
Proud of Gabby for going to that before going to like how many times she has cried and called me and been like, we didn't get this grant.
Yeah, I was like, what kind of grant? I'm like, what do you want to show? What do you want me to talk about funding? We were talking about social media already. I'm like, I'm good at taking selfies and just saying I'm okay. But if you want to keep it funky.
Well, I feel like I mean everybody has these stories, but there are people out there who, we have a lot of artists in the community who just have creativity, but they don't know how to go after funding, and so they're not really a part of the conversation of funding. They're thinking like, well, I just need to secure a venue, and then in enough time to let people know that I was going to be here, and then hopefully at the end, I can turn some sort of profit that made it all worthwhile. Yeah. But when you're an organization and a new organization, and I think that that's part of the concerns here in our community. A lot of these organizations have existed for like 20 years or so. So, the funders know them. And they almost have to just have a lunch and say, all right, so how much is it? And I'm sure it's more than that, but they have a relationship. They've spent a lot more time cultivating, and it's easier. So when somebody new comes up, unless this foundation says, who are you? And we are looking for something new, then you might not get any attention if these other companies are already, it's like, well, we already have this annual allocation. We already have 40% of this sort of claimed if their paperwork comes in.
The problem is also that there is this barrier where you need to have a company, and you need to have, 3 years of shows. How were you doing the shows? Who knows? But you got to show us that you've been doing it for free for 3 years before we give you any money. And if you're just
sometimes more than 3 years.
Yeah, 5 years usually, or longer. But if you're an independent artist who just has a great idea and wants to get a team together to do a show, it's like there's really not that many avenues for actually getting a large granting source in this city. Yeah. And there aren't that many anyway. Like, we're all fighting for the scraps because it's like 0.4% or something, that they're giving out to people. So yeah, I think that it's a whole, if we start getting into me, I'll be just like capitalism, and start getting into a whole foundational issue with it. And I think that we're gonna have to overhaul the system in some way, because every year is a new grantor that is no longer granting.
Yes.
Or there's a lot going on right now. Like, I don't blame someone for being like, actually, we want to move our money from the arts to this prison reform thing. I'm like, of course you do. Like, yes, go ahead. But like, the arts is also like, I think there's also maybe not enough of an understanding of how the arts really do transform communities, and how having access to the arts changes people in a way that maybe that prison reform is going to be less needed in that community if you install an art system into the kindergarten. Like, people don't think in that long-term way. So I don't know, I guess we just have to continue to bring it into the conversation. And let people know about books like Emergent Strategy, which, like, at every avenue I'm going to share that book because everyone needs to read it. And just try to think of ways that we can't continue to do it in this system.
We need hashtags like theater is therapy and...
Oh my God, theater will save us.
Music is medicine.
Theater will save us is the hashtag that I use for everything. Theater will save us, because I really, like, obviously that's like not just theater, but the idea behind, like, we need to incorporate this from the start so that Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop ranting.
It is sad. It is sad that you have to try to make it sexy to get them to cut a check. It's like,
Well, you have to show them why it's monetarily viable.
yeah.
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 But it's also, I think there is also a level of, it's interesting because I think what we're doing is very different than what most theater companies are doing in the city. So I think that there is.
That's why I asked, was this the beginning of a...
This has been, I'm going to be also very clear, this has been one of the most like, emotionally straining, there's been many times I've questioned, do I have what it takes?
You do.
And I'm so lucky that I have people who can affirm me, like you just did right now. Thank you. I received.
Just call me whenever.
Yeah.
I'm having
I received.
Girl,
that.
you are super. You are
Yes.
beautiful. Whatever you're wearing today, just get it.
Yes, I received. That's right. But I do, if I didn't have a tribe, I actually would not be able to,
Yeah.
and actually I wouldn't want to because it goes beyond just funding. Okay, we're talking about, there's times that my name shows up on an application and I lie to you not, the amount of also racism, I'm just gonna keep it real, that I've experienced in the last year.
And misogyny.
As much as I've been prepared for it and I've experienced it my whole life, for some reason I wasn't fully prepared because I'm putting my life on the line, and literally I'm putting everything into a grant application.
Yeah.
And I'm not a writer. I'm fucking dyslexic. Like, people told me I wouldn't even make it to like go into Greenfield right up the block. I was told I would never make it to like Kappa, or I would never be able to like get into Central. Like, I have had to do a lot of also unlearning in this work as a grant writer, and also just a co-writer too, because I'm also co-writing with folks. I'm not the sole grant writer. And I did that because I know my style. And so I've learned how to ask for help. I've learned how to like become a better writer, but ultimately also realize sometimes when will we not compromise our mission for money? And also that the system will set us to fail regardless. And I really say that because we've had a lot of experiences that I was like, oh, so we never had a chance to begin with? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
After
We just needed the paper. Needed the paperwork.
No, I'm like actually not. Yes,
for this documentation.
Like, I mean, it. Those are moments of devastation. Those are moments of when I'm like, oh, anxiety's kicking in,
Hours that were wasted.
depression's kicking in. But then I can turn to my tribe and call Arlena and cry and be affirmed and know that like I'm not walking this road alone, and know that like we've done this work with no money. We've done this work in basements. We've done this work on the streets. So like at the end of the day, we have to walk with integrity anywhere we go, because that's ultimately what I've been raised on. That's all I got. I think it becomes a point of too also when we're talking about funding. It feels devastating when you can't pay people what they deserve. That's I think that's but like I'm like, oh, like, because I don't have to. There's moments I'm like, I won't pay myself. Like, and I'm doing that now. There's moments right now I'm not paying myself these 3 months to work Power Street to like, and I have paid myself a little bit in the last year, but like these 3 months I'm like, has to focus on all the money that we can get to pay our artists. And those are the sacrifices that you make because you want to pay people, but like we're still not even able to pay people what they deserve. But we have an incredible team for y'all coming up from Minority Land.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is the dream team in a way that I'm just like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
The universe, when the mission is strong, when your heart is big, when
you'll attract some good people.
You'll attract some good people to you. And I mean, if you think about Power Street, I mean, 7 years of people doing mostly free labor out of a radical act of just love and love for one another, because we are a family at this point. So that's my rant. I think ultimately is integrity and love and co-creation.
It's a very valuable rant too. And the thing is, like, if you can get people to see that you're doing this without the traditional brick and mortar that you have to raise more money just to maintain. You're actually putting all the money that you make into the art, into the work, and you have this beautiful output to show for it. Like, you know, it's the hope that they see that and say, oh, they do know how to manage this money. So we do need to give them more money because they're doing such a great job with it. Look at this, you know. But it is hard to get their attention, and I feel like once you do, and I wonder if the older companies have this too, where it took them a while to get their attention, the funders' attention, but now that they've got it, maybe they feel stuck. Maybe they're stuck doing certain things because they know that gets funded. And you know, what's beautiful about younger organizations, that younger organizations have these wonderful ideas that if they can get people to latch on, this is the standard. The standard is not some, you know, but you mentioned Minority Land. That was a great segue. So tell us about Minority Land.
So Minority Land is Power Street's first show that we ever did 7 years ago. 7 years ago. Where it was this I was technically the playwright and director on it. It was a very co-created, devised piece with an incredible team. And we always knew we wanted to do it again. And we kind of been bidding our time and waiting for the right time. And it feels like now is a good time to do it again. So Minority Land is about gentrification in North Philadelphia, which
still happening.
Was a relevant topic 7 years ago and is continued to be even more devastatingly relevant in 2019. Yeah, so we have an incredible team. We are starting rehearsals in a month. I'm going to be co-directing with Kat Ramirez, starring.
Hi, Kat.
Yeah, I know.
So excited.
Yeah, starring Gabby, reprising her her infamous role as Mama Julia. And she's already starting to complain about pain in her knees. So I think Mama Julia is starting to possess her, which is actually what happens when Gabby becomes Mama Julia. So be prepared for that. Not to hype her up too much, you know, just saying it's like really creepy and weird and amazing.
Thank you. You're making me blush.
So yeah, we're just really excited to hop back into this show. I've been working on rewrites. I just finished rewriting Act 1. Well, not rewriting, but you know, just tightening up and like tweaking my grammar when I first wrote this play. Oh my god. Like I do a game now on my phone that helps me with my grammar because it was really, really that bad. This was the first play I ever wrote, and there's this rawness to it that I don't want to lose. You know, like I don't want to lose. There's something about like a too tight play, or like a play that's just like perfectly bowed up at the end that just like you can just tell it has been like overdeveloped. That I don't want. You know, that there's something about Minority Land that like that. Even when I look at moments where I'm like, this scene is too long, and I would never write a scene this long anymore. But now I'm like, maybe that scene just needed to be that long. I had never taken a playwriting class up to that point, and that's what I thought that scene should be. So maybe that's actually the way it should be. Now I'm pretty good at editing plays and thinking about structure now, because I've been graduated from the Foundry and all these things. But and that's gonna help me make it tighter. But I really do just hope that like that rawness of like me jumping on the ground and being like, I'm gonna write a play isn't lost. And also for the production, like I think that even though this production is gonna be different in so many ways from when we first did it, I don't want to lose that sense of like this was a bunch of artists who like didn't know what they were doing.
Oh my gosh.
Who threw up a show and it was a miracle, and like that feeling should always be there in some way.
So
I mean, that show sold out shows as well. That was like the one show, just like Las Mujeres.
Like, Las Mujeres was the first time that like the theater community really came out, I think, to see a Power Street show. But we have been doing that feeling, whatever people felt when they came to see Las Mujeres, for a couple of years before. And it started with Minority Land.
It was beautiful to be in the room for Las Mujeres. Sitting there with, looking around saying, I don't know hardly any of these people. And that's a great thing, because usually you're seeing the same people who get out there, who are out there supporting, and that's good too. But like to see what I thought was a new audience was like, great.
Powder Street Saga.
I'm so glad they're finding. I'm so glad you're finding an audience there, and that you
I
don't
love our
feel.
audience.
I hope you don't feel this urge to like come downtown necessarily.
Never.
You know,
I'm sorry.
like you're saying. That
I mean,
you
we don't
can't
mind visiting.
Find your
Yeah,
community.
we'll totally visit. We'll
I
totally.
come see you,
Yeah.
Chef.
Hidden
I come see you,
Disabilities
little
is the
Chef.
Drake, and that
Yeah.
our Hidden Disabilities project was happened in the last
Yeah.
year as well. It was a really exciting.
That was exciting.
That was a really, really fun. It was totally different, scary. That we'd never done anything like that before. And I
directed
don't
by
even know-
Christina May.
Yeah.
Didn't know what was gonna happen. Never at any show. Just kind of had to hope for the best. And it always went great, of course. And that was really cool to be like, hey, we're doing a show in the Drake. But I don't think for our main shows we would ever want to do that because our community. We want to make sure that the shows where they can go, where they're
Benefit
comfortable,
them.
and
That's
where
a
they're
part of our
accessible to
mission.
them.
And
Yeah.
all them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we hope that funders bite onto that
Mhm.
idea that like
We have to be okay with having uncomfortable conversations.
Mhm.
We have to be okay with calling people out and getting called out.
Yeah.
We have to be okay with the friction and with, because the only way that anything's going to change, the only way we're going to move forward and create something different is if we do that. And, you know, I understand why, like, there's this people are, what can we do? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like I'm walking on eggshells and like being afraid that they're going to like make a wrong move. Like, it's okay. Check your people, make sure that you check in on all your sources. And if all of your sources are white, then maybe you should diversify your sources. And then and then, you know, do your whatever your thing is. And then if you're afraid it's gonna reap consequences, then reap the consequences, learn something and do better. And I think also people have to be willing to meet people where they are. There's definitely a sense of like, because I'm this woke, you should be this woke.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's fair because we are where we are in our development of what we think of this world because of our experiences. In our classes, we had very different people with different backgrounds and different experiences. And I think that it was really beautiful to see people come into a space who are so different and who believe so many different things and be able to like have this love for each other. And we were willing to have those conversations and willing to, if someone's in the middle of sharing a heartfelt story of their childhood and they drop a like expletive and racial slur because that relates to their story from their childhood. We can't then immediately be like, that person's a racist, we got to kick them out of the class, whatever, etc. Like, we have to be willing to be like, okay, this person is not doing this in a malicious way right now. They're relaying their experience. I hear you. Now let's maybe bring to attention that there are people in the class who are going to maybe find what you just said offensive. Think about that in context of how you care about these people. So, you know, like that's what needs to be happening. So I think as long as we come to all of this with a real hope for change and not a, I don't know, like jaded sense of like no one's listening, no one cares. And if we really are willing to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, which I say because I am the first person to not want to have conflict and to not want to be in like argument with anyone. But I've had to deal with that so many times in the last year where like in order to have a healthy, productive partnership and in order to build something different, you can't just write people off. You can't just say, oh, you made a mistake, so now you're a bad person. Like you have to be willing to be like, hey, this is what you did, this is how it made me feel, and like now your ball's in your court. What are you gonna do?
We entered the theater to be entertained, educated, and validated at the same time. But sometimes those things sort of overpower each other. And, you know, it does seem like sometimes the arguments that are being had are about validation. It's like, well, you already felt that way. So you didn't come to the theater to just be validated. So if you are learning something here that you didn't know or that you don't agree with, then inquire. Then find out more. Like, that's why I feel like we can always benefit from a talkback discussion, because we can unpack these things. And if we give ourselves the time, we can do that. But you know, sometimes you get to a level where you're dealing with so much money, it's so on time. It's like, we can't be more than 5 minutes late. That curtain can't be 5 minutes late, and we got to get everybody out of here because this building shut down at 11. It's like nothing ever happened. What show? What show? What are you talking about? You're like, wait a minute. You're really good. You just unloaded all this on us, and there's no opportunity for us to unpack. Like
that's one of the things that like I remember noticing from from our one of our first shows was that like I think like the talk back and people staying afterwards to talk to us was longer than the show itself.
Yes. Oh, many.
That's a good way to put
Many
it.
times I'm sitting here in front of the microphone and I'm saying like, so we talked 45 minutes about a 1 hour piece. I'm like, I don't know how we did that.
But that should be
I'm gonna
included
try.
as part of the piece. That should
Yes.
be part of the theater going experience, which is what we
Yes.
always had
We always
talkbacks from
have
the
a
beginning.
talkback.
Yeah.
And it took some convincing. It always takes
Mhm.
convincing to tell our actors we have a talkback after every show.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Every
are
show.
you kidding me?
Mhm.
Like, no, it's okay. Like, our talkbacks are, like, interesting.
Yeah.
Our talkbacks are the best.
I think, I wonder if they're just having a hard time getting that sort of buy-in from the artists about some of these shows, because it does seem like smaller companies have no problem doing this. Like we can do this. It's sort of part of a thing. But I also do see these moments where it's like, aren't they having a talk back? But I just saw half the cast leave.
Yeah.
Like,
and you know what? And
it's
I
like,
feel like
all these people were just moved. You got a standing ovation because we just give them away like candy now. You know, it's like, so you should come out here and meet this group of people that said, even though we
Make
sat
note
here
of
for
that.
3 hours, we sit and wait.
Yeah.
We sat here and waited, and now you guys are just easing out the side door.
Yeah, I think that's part of when a actor maybe, and not to say like some people, if you're from another town or you gotta catch your train, like do your thing, you know. Like I think there's that, but I think that when an actor doesn't even feel like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this talkback.
Yeah.
That's probably because either they feel some type of way about the play that they're in, or they feel some type of way about
Yes.
the company, or they're not, you know, or they don't really get it, or you know, like there's probably not as much. If you love this play, if you're like, wow, this audience just gave us a standing ovation, and you don't have to catch your train.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
gonna go out there and you're gonna meet your people and you're gonna talk about the show, you know?
Because if not, this was an expectation. You expected to get
Exactly.
you expected to get a standing ovation tonight, and that's why you're like, whatever, I'm just gonna, tie it up, put some sweatpants on, and ease out the back door.
Yeah.
I also understand and respect the fact that
And,
this
yeah,
is
if you're
draining.
sick, if you're taking care of yourself,
This is
you're
draining
just in a role that
entirely.
like
Yeah.
you died at the end and like you need that time to like
Yes.
I understand that, but also there's a world where like why can't we build that into it?
Yes.
You know why can't
I can,
an actor
I can
can
get
come
paid a
out.
little more.
Yeah.
Or can we,
Yeah.
how do we build it in, but also compensate artists for their time?
Yeah.
Because I also understand time is money.
Yeah.
So So I think it's
I wonder if I don't know if it is a funding requirement. It should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You have to be able to, this
well,
part
we
of
had that
education is
into
going to be in
our
there.
stuff.
And that also includes educating the audience about what are the good questions to ask and
Yep.
what are the questions that like actors really don't want to hear how they memorize their lines. Everyone has a different process.
Yes. Yes.
You know, like that can be part of it as well, because there's also this dismissive idea of like the audience asks stupid questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, help them ask better questions. You know, like they're not asking stupid questions because they're stupid. They came to your show and they have a question. Help them ask a better question.
And they're not stupid questions. Something in this piece was not clear.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
do need a little bit of unpacking. But remember, you went through a whole rehearsal process. You had dramaturgy. So you understand this now, but you're walking in. We have this assumption that the audience gets it already. It's like, no, not everything is laid out in the piece itself. And sometimes there is a backstory that is necessary. Because I know for me, the thing I love about going to opening nights is that there are people milling around and we're unpacking. There are some companies where I can go and talk directly to the artistic director, and I'm sitting there going, I don't even know how I'm getting your time right now, but I'm absorbing so much. It's like a pre-interview. Because like I'm having the conversation going, we're going to have to get this on. Right. But I walk away. I just said to someone, I filled out a survey, something about theater, and I said, I've never walked out of a theater without a smile on my face. Because I've been moved by this. I learned something, or something was validated for me, or I was just very entertained, So I'm thinking about all of those things. There is a balance, but if you're not a traditional theater goer, you only want to be entertained first. You don't even realize that there's an opportunity for you to be educated and validated in here as well. So some of those extra things, when somebody's saying like, well, I can pay to go see this brilliant IMAX film that costs millions of dollars, I only have to pay $20, but you're telling me your show costs $25. And you're like, well, not only are we entertaining you live, we're also educating you because we put a lot of work into this, and hopefully you find some ways to resonate with this piece as well. And if you get to see us in the lobby, it always blows my mind when somebody's like a theater goer and they find someone in the lobby and they're like, can you sign my playbill?
Oh,
And you're like, oh my God, yes, yes, please. And you should go find the other cast members and get them to sign their
Yeah.
playbill, because that's awesome. They're going to walk away and have such a connection to this
Yeah, I
piece
know.
because everybody took the moment. What? They're signing? I want my sign. I want to sign too. That would be so great.
I know, it's
I
so
don't
cute. That
know.
happened during Las Mujeres a couple of times, and every time I was
Yeah.
like, what? Really? Okay.
I think about all of those things. I mean, I just hope, because sometimes you do look at some theaters and you see the couple that's clearly a longtime subscriber because one of the two is sleeping.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm glad you got it like that, to just throw money away on a nice quiet
But
place
you know
to
what?
sleep.
If they want to sleep, sure. Maybe they're observing
Yeah.
it in some way, as long as they're not snoring. And as long as they're
But
not
there
in
are
the front
people
row.
that could really benefit from this. That
Yeah.
you know, if the proper funding allowed for a more affordable ticket to be available, or even some comp tickets to be available, then the people that really wanted to be in here, instead of the one who could just afford to sleep while you
There's
pour
nothing
your heart out on
bothers
stage.
me more than seeing, going to see a show that has primarily people of color on stage, and then the audience is half filled with white people.
You're like,
You're just
where
like-
are we?
Go to the street and hand out free
Yes,
tickets if you don't even
yes.
got your theater full. Like,
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
I'm like, come
I
on,
know,
like, what are
yeah.
you holding out for? You're selling $50 tickets. Sell them for $10 and your theater will be full.
And it seems like the company that doesn't really need the rush has a rush. You know, it's like, because the smaller company can't afford to do a rush ticket. We need this ticket to be
Yeah.
sold at
Yeah.
its full price.
Which is $10.
yeah, just $10. Like we actually budgeted $13, but you know, we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
sell this for $10, so we are at a deficit. But we do need to
Exactly.
oversell this thing, and we hope 5 people don't show up, so we can resell those tickets at the door. There's just a ton of things like that. It's crazy. I feel like when I was in my arts administration program at NYU, and one of the conversations we had was the structure of nonprofits was set up to fail. They're not supposed to turn a profit.
Exactly.
They're just supposed to, you know, hopefully put something good into the world. And so, you know, I think it does cause a lot of sort of apathy in some places. There are people with the mindset of good is fine. And it's like, but your mission says excellent. You know, your mission is unattainable, which means that's why you work so hard. Because you will never reach this goal. That's why you continue to strive to achieve. So, you know, I mean, of course, I could talk about this forever too. But so it's always great when a smaller company is starting to get more recognition, starting to get more attention, and it's the hope that the people with the money start distributing their money over there, or that everybody else just realizes, you know what? Instead of just sitting here, I could have been there with them.
Exactly. Yeah, and
You
I think
know?
we can't put all of the weight on the funders. I think that the power is in the people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I really believe that. So it just takes people coming to purchasing a ticket, coming to our events, spreading some love, and that can sustain.
It
You know,
makes
like
such a
it does. It'll make a difference, and I think. We have a lot of power. You know,
Yeah.
we fundraise. One thing, I think one of the biggest success stories for us in the last year, we had our 6 days for $6,000
For our 6
for our
years.
6 years, 6th birthday with Power Street. And what was really interesting, I was like, oh my gosh, if we don't make the money, we're gonna like fail publicly. Like the thought of that was like it was freaking me out.
I was the one that kept pushing it. I was like, no, $6,000 for 6
And
days.
I'm like, can we really do $6,000 in 6 days? And what we learned was we were like $500 off. So, which was amazing.
And most of those donations were like $60, $10, like, you know, like
$6.
Yeah,
like just so many different donations, and also mainly from artists in our community, which was like a blessing.
Yeah.
And I remember like us sending out a newsletter and saying, hey, like, we didn't reach our goal of 6,000, but we did, you know, we came so close. Mm-hmm. And then like the next day receiving the money.
It's
that
like,
was,
what? You didn't make it?
Like, exactly.
The check.
What you need?
Like,
exactly. And it was one of those moments that it was just, I don't know.
Oh, that's right. You can even admit that you didn't
I wonder
reach
why
your
we
goal.
don't do that. We should say, well, we were short the goal by $500, but we want to thank everyone who contributed, because after that you're going to be like, I'm not one of the people they thank. So let me go in here and maybe we can help them reach that.
Yeah. And it was also like learning that because we are serving, you know, normally, right, like, you know, a population that is poor, right? Like, right? And is in poverty, right? Sometimes our mindset has always been like,
we don't want to ask for the community for money.
Yeah, because we want to do, you know, we want to do free rents, we want to do pay what you can, we want to do, right,
and that includes artists too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But we realize, I think what's important to realize too is that no, our community is rich, and our community can give us $10, and our community, and what we have to do first in order, because the easy way out is actually saying this is free versus actually saying, I want you to value this. Mm-hmm. I want you to value me. I want you to value the work, and I want you to love it, and I want you to feel good that I'm giving something to this. Because I'm receiving something in return that's so grand as well. Yeah. And I think that has been the shift for us a little bit of saying, you know,
not feeling bad for asking people for money.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, reshifting those programs of saying, you know, like, and if anyone walks into a Power Street show and is like, I can't afford this, but I want to see it. I mean, it happens at almost every show we have that people are coming in.
But you're already here, so
we're never going to turn anyone down. But I do think that there is something about like helping, like going out.
People value it. If you say the show's worth $25, then they're like, okay. If you say the show is worth $5, it creates a very different perspective.
There are some companies that will tell you what that does. Like, here's what $25 does for us, and sometimes it helps. Like, you know, I think about it here. So I work in an office district, and to go out for lunch, I have to commit $10 to $12. So if I don't go out for lunch, that $10 to $12 is most industry tickets. You know, it's a small contribution. It's contribution to a Kickstarter or Indiegogo. You know, that kind of gets them down the road a little bit. So I do think about that too. I'm like, well, I didn't have lunch a few times this week because I brought it, and then that's money I could put somewhere else. Yeah. But not everybody thinks that way, and sometimes you just don't realize.
That's because you value it, because you think that way, and that's where like the education has to happen. How do we help people see? If your only experience was seeing a show in high school and it was Shakespeare, I don't blame you for thinking that theater.
But
is
if you're just producing the show and it starts and it ends, and there's no other way for them to engage your company at all, then you missed an opportunity to show them why just coming to the show wasn't. You know, we're grateful that you were here with us tonight, but let me tell you what else it did. You know, it's not just that you were entertained tonight. We hope that we educated you on this particular thing. We hope that we validated some of things that you were thinking about, or
we
at
hope
least
that you feel a sense of.
We hope you found your way in. You know, but we don't know that if we just let you walk out the door because you bought a ticket as a guest. You know, on the website, you're not even registered. You just guest ticket. There's just tons of things, like anything. So coming up, I guess in August, you've got part of Teatro al Fresco. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Teatro al Fresco. Started with a student showcase you had, and then a comedy cabaret, and coming up is a power slam.
Yes.
So tell us about the power slam. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so we are going to have a mixture of multidisciplinary women identifying artist. Take stage at Las Parcelas from 5 to 8 on August 17th, which is a Saturday. And there will be a rain date on August 18th. And we're hoping that it will
been
shine.
Lucky so far this year.
We have been lucky so far this year. In other years, not so lucky. Yeah, so we're going to have belly dancing. We're going to have dancing from Sanchelle Brown with African dance. We're going to have Jaylene Clark Owens do some poetry.
Nice.
We're gonna have Rachel O'Hanlon Rodriguez do some poetry. We're gonna have we have a few other folks, singers. So it's gonna be a really amazing experience. We're gonna have some artwork from Lazy Beam.
And followed by an open mic too, right?
And followed by an open mic. So yeah, so it's gonna be really exciting to just kind of be in space centering women of color. And also multidisciplinary artists. So like kind of being able to have this platform to say
it's not just about
theater, but this is like, I don't know, sometimes I like to like reclaim the idea of what, because we do such untraditional theater, that like actually theater can be a lot of things in my mind. And I think a gathering of different art mediums can literally be theater in some ways. And so I'm very excited about this. This was actually funded through the Emerging City Champions Fellowship that I received from the Knight Foundation.
Okay.
So thanks, Knight Foundation.
We're going to queue up some AC because it is the summertime. So we hope you can still hear us, but we can't die and finish this interview. So.
Well, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have this amazing event happening in this beautiful Sacred Garden in North Philly. If you haven't been there, come check it out. It's amazing. It's managed by North Square Neighborhood Project. And we'll have, Power Street always has a little snacks happening and, some beverages, and it's a pay what you decide. So there's really no excuse not to come unless, you're at the beach somewhere.
Or still in Edinburgh.
Yeah, right.
And if you can't make it, you can still come out and see Minority Land.
Yeah.
September 27th is our opening, and we're closing on October 13th. So you got about 2 weeks to come check it out.
Yeah, so come to our website, which will be launching shortly. And we're very excited about that.
And not that we're setting up people's excuses for not being able to make it, but how else can they support Power Street?
Yes. Well, they can certainly make a donation. And there are links on our website. There's a link on our website that you can make a donation. And there's also a link that you can write us a love letter. So one of the things that we were really thinking about was what are ways that people can support us beyond just donating? And I think being able to share a testimony with us is really, really important to us. And so, so there's many ways. And as we talked about earlier, affirmations, man, like just liking us on Facebook, liking us on social media, staying connected to us, signing up for our newsletter. I think being able to be a part of the co-creation and the connection is the most important thing. And then the dollar comes next, right?
The dollar is just a monetary way to show your love.
Yeah.
Yes. Although we need it.
You should get a hotline and call it the power line.
The power line.
Everybody calls you and just gives you just outpourings of love.
Oh my God.
Y'all wonderful, y'all beautiful. Hair and skin popping.
During grant season.
The hotline is on.
Yes, there you go. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a phone. It could be email address. Hotline at Power Street. I don't know. I'm full of those ideas.
See, those are the things that you had the funding.
Well, it was great chatting with you. It's always great chatting with you. I can't believe it was such a gap in time since we chatted before, but I'm definitely looking forward to what you have coming up next season. Next season. Are we in the season? We're technically in the season.
We're like in a weird middle.
We're in that weird middle where fiscal years have rolled over. We haven't quite gotten in the swing yet. It's like after Fringe. That's when his season begins. But yes, please come back and continue to share with us what's going on at Power Street.
Thank you
you
for
so,
having
so,
us.
so much
Thank
for
you,
having
ladies,
us.
so much for chatting with me today. And now we're gonna hang out in this AC for a minute
Yeah.
and chill. Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.